All right, thanks for joining us today. My name's Jenny Skulander. I'm one of the research liaison librarians at the uni, and I'm also joined by Debbie Booth, who is our research and scholarly communication advisor. I'd like to begin though by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands within our footprint areas, the Awabakal, Darkinjung, Biripi, Warramai, Wonnarua and Eora nations. I'd like to also pay respect to the wisdom of the elders, past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this acknowledgement and pay my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here today. So I'll just get this to move forward. So again, thank you for joining us. Now, if you have any questions about anything that's covered today, or just generally you need to have a central point of contact in the library, you have a research liaison librarian for each of the schools. At the moment, this College of Engineering Science and all of those other schools is vacant at the moment, but if you contact either Ruth Talbot Stokes or Kylie Clarkson, they will then put you in contact with someone. So there's always someone that can help you, and don't ever be afraid to reach out to the research librarians. So what we're going to be looking at today is the HASS kind of perspective about what you might be wanting to gather as far as publication metrics data for any of the promotion documentation. Now, just as an overview, in that portfolio that you have to be putting forward, the candidates are required to produce a portfolio that outlines activities and achievements in each of the three areas of teaching and learning, research and innovation, and engagement. And you've also got to demonstrate the achievements and the impacts of that work, provide appropriate evidence since the last promotion or appointment. You can choose how you allocate the information in the available space, and there is a limit as to what you can actually add, which is 6 pages in length with an 11-point font. Now, the part of all of that that we can help you with are these sections here. We've pulled out the particular sections of the academic promotions CV and also application form that are most relevant to where the library is going to be able to help you. So you can see that it's listing in reverse chronological order, any publications or research outputs and evidence of that, any non-traditional research outputs that you may have developed or researched, co-authorship, and the impact of your work, which is demonstrated through an H-index or the field-weighted citation impact number there. And you've got to be gathering that evidence from SciVal or discipline-specific sources. So this is an important thing to remember. Also, the other two parts, you have to be looking at how that's been evidenced through national or international collaborations and publications, and the impact of that work, possibly beyond traditional metrics in those alternative metrics. And also making sure that you're demonstrating the reputation or the standing in your field. Authorship order as well is an important one to be demonstrating in all of this. And all of that can be looked at in detail in that portfolio development guide. You have a certain amount of information that's been gathered in the academic dashboard, and there was a really great session that was held last week about the academic dashboard and how you can be using it, how you can be looking at it, what you need to be doing to keep it up to date. There are some limits in what the information that'll be produced through that, as far as some of the deeper metrics. And again, humanities and social sciences and arts may not be captured fully in that dashboard. But for more information about that session and any information at all, go and have a look at the academic promotions site, Also yesterday, there was another session that was run by my two other colleague librarians, and the recording of that session will be made available as well. Also, Debbie's putting any links into the chat that are going to be relevant to any of the slides that I'm talking about at the moment. So the biggest thing is to make sure all of your data is up to date. Look at your ORCID. Have you registered an ORCID? Is it up to date? You can also be combining your ORCID with Neuro now. So anything that goes into your Neuro profile can automatically be sent across to ORCID. So that ORCID is kept up to date with any of your publications. And you can also be adding things into ORCID yourself. But keeping all of these up to date is really important. Not just for the academic dashboard, because that's where most of the information is being fed through to, but it's also important for yourself as well. It's going to be helping your outward facing profile. Nexus is that staff profile page. New Star is helping with all of your HDR supervision and all of that. So all of these things need to be kept up to date so that when it comes to the time that you have to be putting in any of these kind of applications, or even research, and I've lost that word, grant applications, all of that information is there. So keep everything up to date. Now, just as a way of thinking about traditional metrics versus alternative metrics, this image here captures what is looked at as a traditional metric and what is an alternative metric. And quite often in humanities, you need to be looking just beyond the traditional metrics. They're an important key element of what we're trying to gather as far as your promotions information goes, but also there's alternative metrics that are going to be used to help to tell the story about your research. So alternative metrics can be indications of non-traditional attention engagement with digitally published research and scholarship. They also attempt to provide a fuller picture of a researcher's impact and influence and can measure how many times a research output has been shared, mentioned, or downloaded from online sources, and also things such as social media sites. And alternative metrics are important as they can include measures of works often overlooked by the traditional metrics, which we can see here, those citation counts, number of publications, H indexes, all of these traditional things do not capture some of the humanities, arts and social sciences research. And so looking at alternative metrics becomes a really important thing. But, you know, in essence, you need to be using the traditional metrics and the alternative metrics to complement each other to help to tell your story. So what does make humanities and social sciences different when gathering citation metrics? You can see here that there's a number of things that will make your research in humanities, arts, social sciences a little bit different if you're wanting to capture the full story of your research, its impact and the engagement. So quite often the number of authors collaborating on research can vary greatly from in STEM research, citing each other. There's quite often those long reference lists, so therefore that's captured as a citation metric. The kind of research that's being produced, you're going to be producing books and chapters rather than just journal articles. And then also for creative industries, you're going to be producing all kinds of non-traditional research outputs. So you're thinking about all these things that aren't going to be captured by those traditional strict citation counts. So I won't go through the whole list, but it's just an indication. These are the things that make capturing research metrics in humanities, arts and social sciences just a little bit different to the STEM research. So the key metrics tools that are being looked at quite often, and particularly this one, SciVal, is the one that is feeding the academic dashboard. So this is also a tool that we use as librarians whenever we're creating detailed metrics reports. And I've used this to create humanities and social sciences metrics reports, but I've also had to look elsewhere. So it's a great way of starting to build a picture. It's available to everybody at the uni. We have a subscription to SciVal. It is capturing the data that's sitting behind Scopus, but there's a whole lot of other things as well. And again, for more information about how to use this and navigate SciVal, the recording from yesterday's sessions with my fellow librarians will talk you through some of the, the navigating that's needed for SciVal. The other big metrics tool that's used is Insights, which sits behind Web of Science. And it provides us with a lot of information as well. Again, it's another metrics tool that we use when we're creating metrics reports. Keeping in mind that both these databases will be capturing information about articles or resources or publications that are being published in either that Elsevier platform or the Web of Science platform. So the kinds of metrics that are available in SciVal and Insights are these things that you can see on the screen. It's citation counts, average citations per publication, field-weighted metrics, publications with field research codes. I'm just jumping around a few different things. Authorship position. SciVal captures really nicely the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and I'll have a little bit more to say about that in a few slides' time. Publications in top journal quartiles. These are the sorts of metrics, and you can see this is all really valuable information that's captured in SciVal and Insights, and this is why we use it as one of our metrics tools, and also why it's being used to capture that information to feed through to the academic dashboard. So how then would you use some of that information that has been brought out of SciVal? So you can see we've put together a story, a narrative about how you would use that, high-level data to then put into plain English. How is this, what is this saying about my research? So you can see we've taken something like a field-weighted citation index and put it into a sentence and told a story about this person. The average field-weighted citation impact of my 2017 to 2022 publications, that should say, is 1.35, indicating that they are cited 35% above the world average in the field of education. My publications have been cited 546 publications, whose authors are affiliated with 160 institutions in more than 65 countries. And then it goes on. And also there's another one here. I'm the sole author on 15% and first named author on 35% of my 2017 to 2022 publications. The H index on my career publications is 20 and my H5 index is 7, ranking me well above academics of the same career level. I have co-authored with 50 national and international researchers. So that would be how you could explain using that really heavy high-level data, but in a plain English way, to say, this is what I've done, this is how I've collaborated, and this is the success of my research. So we're just covering some of these traditional metrics at the moment, and then I'm going to move into the alternative metrics that are going to be telling that extra bit of the story for you. So you've possibly seen this metric or this ranking called SJR. It's a Scimago journal rank, and it's used to determine what quartile that a journal will sit in? Is it a quartile 1? Does it sit in the top 25% of the world? Does it fit in its field of research? Does it fit within the top 50%? And those sorts of things. So Scimago is a website that anybody can use. It's free to use. Its data is often found in Scopus, and you can see there's a bit of a story about how it was developed, but it is an excellent way of determining the kinds of metrics that are sitting there for you to determine what is the quality of this journal. Also, our Researcher Skills Toolkit that the librarians have developed can also talk you through some of these metrics. We've put it into as plain English as possible for you, and you can find that there. And again, Debbie's putting all of these into the chat for you. Some of the other journal quality indicators that we have been using and have also been shown to us by the different schools in the university is the ABDC list. Now that's particularly helpful for any business related publications that you're looking at. They will rank a journal. A plus is the top ranked journal, and then it goes A, B, and C. So you'll be able to see straight away the ranking of a particular journal and determine the quality. Also, the political sciences has a similar kind of listing, and it's the APSA. And again, it has that same ranking just to help you determine what is the quality of this journal that I can find my publication in. And finally, the School of Law and Justice has a list as well that ranks the quality of the journals through from A, and I can't remember what it goes down to, but it also determines whether it's an international or local journal. So again, understanding the quality of the journal helps you to tell a story about your research and the impact. So again, 43% of my 2017 to 21 articles are published in journals in the top 10% of the most cited international journals. My recent research on interdisciplinary teaching has resulted in 6 publications, including articles in a quartile 1 journal, in the subject category, education and educational research, and another article in a quartile 1 journal in special education subject category. So they're the sorts of things that you can be saying about where you've published. Some of the other alternative metrics that you want to be thinking about investigating are these. Books, chapters and reviews are a wonderful way of being able to talk about the impact, the spread, the engagement with your research. You can also be finding out if any of your research has been included in syllabus, which means that it's being promoted in an academic environment. Have you been involved in any peer reviews? You can find the number of downloads and views of articles and chapters. You can also find out if anybody cited your thesis as well. The societal impact is an important thing that the university is particularly interested in. What is the engagement of your research beyond academia? Have you attended any conferences? Are you on the organising committee of any conferences? And what is the prestige of those conferences? Have you held any public lectures, any exhibitions that you may have organised, and what the feedback was from those exhibitions? And again, any journal editorship is worth mentioning somewhere as well. And then finally, all of the mentions in social media become an important way of gauging your engagement and the impact of your research. Mentions in news reports. Have you actually published in something like The Conversation? And has The Conversation referenced any of your work? These are all important things that you can be including. Inclusion in Wikipedia. Whilst Wikipedia is something we have all sorts of thoughts about, the reference list in Wikipedia is sometimes the most important part of a Wikipedia application. So being included in a reference in Wikipedia can be something that you can be highlighting. Has your work been referenced in any patents? And importantly, are you mentioned in any policies? Has your research been included in any policies, whether that be an organisation, a health organisation, or something like UNESCO? So again, thinking about the impact that your books and chapters are having, you can find citations in a number of different places. Who's cited it? Who holds my book? What are the downloads and book sales like of my book? Have there been book reviews and what was said about it? So these are all places that you can find this information. What is the quality of the publisher that I've published in? Have you been awarded a prize? Are you on a bestseller list? Have there been reprints, and are they translated into any other language? Course reading lists, again, has it been included in any syllabus? And there's a site called Open Syllabus that gives you a bit of an indication of how many places may have included your readings or your books in their syllabus. Policy documents, again, as I said, are really important to find out where you've been mentioned in a policy document. And Altmetric Explorer, Plumix in Scopus are a couple of places where you can find that information. And again, all of those mentions in social media, across Wikipedia, all of those sorts of things are in a place called Altmetric Explorer, which we're going to have a look at in a little while. So being able to tell the story about the impact of your books and book chapters. My 2018 book, Feminism and Gender, published by Bloomsbury Academic, was supported by the Australian Council for the Arts Development Grant. It appeared on the publisher's bestseller list for 4 months and has topped sales figures for books in the feminist literature subject category. My book has received top reviews in the Times Literary Supplement and Australian Book Review. It is currently in its second reprint run and has been shortlisted for the Sloan Award. These are actually all real stories. We haven't just typed this up or asked ChatGPT to generate it for us. These are real stories. So you're thinking about, how might I talk about the impact, the engagement, the reception of my work? And again, you can see in chapter 2, this is talking about your textbook. My 2017 accounting textbook is held in the collections of 30 university libraries in Australia, as well as leading university and national libraries in over 45 countries. I'm currently working on the 3rd edition with a French translation due to be published in 2023. The 2nd edition is currently a set textbook on the course syllabus in Australia, UK and Ireland. Okay, so these are the sorts of things that you can be including in your application. Editorship and peer review are another 2 important things to keep in mind. They're another metric that can measure your expertise, your involvement in your field of research. Peer review can be found on Web of Science, on your Web of Science profile, and it may also be included in your ORCID profile. And it's important to keep track of any editorship positions that you hold. So make sure you've continued to talk about or document all of these kinds of things. I'm an editorial board member for a highly ranked journal, or I've been a regular peer reviewer for 2 top journals, etc. So you can see how this is telling a story about your expertise and also the connections that you're making, because this is also going to allow you to collaborate with other people in your field of research. An interesting one is also mentions in parliamentary documents. Now we have a database called Capital Monitor that we have a subscription to, and you can actually search parliamentary documents for yourself. You can see that this one, I did a search for Amy Maguire, and Amy is mentioned in each of these. So these are really valuable resources to be able to connect with. This is something that has been influencing, you know, parliamentary debate. Also searching in Hansard and any of the parliamentary papers, you can be searching for yourself as well, or search for the name of an article that you've written. So again, these are all really important ways of showing how your profile is being used, how your research is being used, what's the impact of your research. You can also be looking for any of the download and view counts for your work. This is just an example that we've taken from a publisher's website. This was the article, and we can see that it had also attached to it article access statistics. So once you've published something, always understand where it is that it's been published, and you can have a look at the publisher website to see what kinds of statistics are out there, because the things that you're wanting, view counts, this is helpful because they begin to accumulate as soon as the output's made available online. You're not waiting for citations to accumulate, but you can at least see how many people have viewed it. It can reflect the interest of a broader research community that includes undergraduate and graduate students and other people in that particular research area. But it's also possibly researchers in the corporate sector, and they don't tend to publish or cite. So they're a hidden kind of citation metric that can be used. You can also have a look at downloads, because that's another indicator of somebody's intent to use your work. It's an intent possibly rather than an actual use, but you don't know. What it does indicate is that there's interest in your work and it's been engaged with in a whole lot of other ways. So have a look at the publisher websites, any repositories, and I'll just give you another example. So this example is taken from our NOVA website, and you can see that it's had, you can see the number of hits, the number of visitors, and that's the views. But you can also see the number of times it's actually been downloaded. So that's just within NOVA. So any work that you're putting into NOVA, you'll be able to see this kind of information. Now, this other one over here, this is actually from a metrics report that I created just recently. I've taken out the book so that you're not recognizing who this person is. And this information here, here's the snip from the publisher website. This is how I got that information. But you can see having this kind of information about how many times a work has been accessed via the publisher's website is a great indication of how your work is being engaged with, who's looking at this, how's it being accessed. And again, it may not be simply academics, it could be people that are also researching in the area. So this is how you would then start to tell the story. The record of my April 22 article has been viewed 560 times in the 90-day period since publication. The full text PDF has been downloaded 335 times, indicating a high level of interest in this emerging field and an indicator of future citations. So you use the information to spell out why it's important that I found this piece of information. So, Altmetrics Explorer. This is a great tool, and it's something that will be really useful to you. It compares and captures a range of alternative metrics from a whole lot of non-traditional areas. And it's going to be particularly helpful for you to see, where is my work being captured? How is it being shared? What's happening with my work? What is the demographic? What is the geographic area? All these sorts of things that aren't going to be captured anywhere else, you know, in those traditional metrics. So what I'm going to do, I shall see if I can get this across. Oops, where did it go? I'm just going to see if I can get this to come across. I'll edit that. Now, Debbie, can you see the Altmetrics Explorer, or do I have to stop sharing?
Yes, you're fine.
Excellent. All right, now I've asked permission of one of the academics if I can use his profile. So Jamie has given me permission to use his profile. So I'll go back and I'll show you a slide when I've finished this. I should have showed you this first. Altmetric Explorer is a database that we've got access to, and you can either find it on the library's A to Z list, or you can simply go to their homepage. But what you have to do is you have to log in using your University of Newcastle email address, because we have an account that will allow you to access the full database. But I will show you that slide in a minute. So I've accessed Altmetrics Explorer. What you want to be sure of is that you're searching the full Altmetrics database. Once you start to type in a name, it should recognize someone from the university, so it should recognize you. Simply type it in there. You don't need to do anything else. And I'm simply going to give you a bit of an overview. I'm not going to do anything too in depth today. So we'll run our search. And what this will do, it will bring up all kinds of different information that Altmetrics has gone and gathered, harvested from a whole lot of different places. Now you can see that Jamie has 33 outputs, or 33 particular pieces of research that have, 62 as his total outputs. 33 of those have received attention, but those 33 have received a total of 625 mentions. So the mentions is the word to just say this is the attention that it's attracted from somewhere. You can see that he's had 592 mentions somewhere across social media. If we click on this, we can see that there's been nearly 600 Twitter mentions, 9 Facebook mentions, and 8 Reddit mentions. News and blogs, if we click on this one, you can see that he's been mentioned in 13 blogs and in 11 news stories. Now, if I was to go into that, we would find that it's possibly news stories from The Conversation or The Times, or, you know, the Sydney Morning Herald. It will tell me where these news stories are being generated. Other sources, 8 mentions. So you can see he's had 5 mentions in Wikipedia. Remember, I talked about Wikipedia, and his name, his information will be included in a reference list somewhere in a Wikipedia post. Q&A posts, and a video. Now, a video is something important as well, because a video is something that's really easy to share. An academic source has been mentioned. He's got 1 peer review that's been mentioned in altmetrics. So again, this is an important way of gathering some of your information that you may not be able to find easily somewhere else. If it had a policy mention, it would be here. Now, a couple of the other things that you can look at, well, what is it that's being talked about? If you click on the research outputs and yep, so these are all the things that have been talked about and mentioned somewhere that altmetrics has gone away and found, and you've got the opportunity to filter it a bit to just particular things if you wanted to. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this. A timeline can be an interesting thing to look at because you can see for some reason in April 2022, his work was getting a lot of mention. Now, one of the examples that we've been shown about this timeline was to do with publications about bushfires or bushfire smoke. And of course, a lot of the attention happened around the time of the Black Summer fires. So these timelines can be helpful as well to help you see if there's something else that was happening in the world that your research impacted upon. Just excuse me. Apologise for that. And again, you've got all the different colours here that represent different things. Demographics. Apologies. Debbie, do you want to talk through this one?
Yes, sorry, Jenny. So we're on the demographics map, and we can see that Jamie's publications have received mentions in India and the US and, oh, Alaska as well. Yep, so that's that there. We've got the Twitter, and the same for Twitter and the same for Facebook as well. So any of this data that you see here, you can actually download into spreadsheet format as well. So across on the right hand side, yep, you've got that ability to download those, and that's really useful, particularly if you are gathering the mentions across all of Jamie's publications. You can do a lot more analysis of who and where and what countries and what organizations. So it's a very useful tool. We've just had a question that says he's tried Altmetric Explorer and it took me to somebody else's profile. Well, that's not good. So Jenny, are you okay to click on Edit Search up the top, the blue button? Yep. And what we're going to do is, on the right-hand side, up the top, we're going to just search my institution only. So we want to look at the records that are coming through from Neuro. So if you can, remove Jamie's, and we're going to look for Ahmed. So let's just type AHMED, and let's see what the wheel gives us. So IFTE, IFTE. Can you scroll down? Or you might need to start with IFTE, IFTE. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly either. Is that?
It's perfect. Sorry, can I interrupt very quickly? I actually went into the institution on the side and then scrolled down to my name, and I'm on it.
You found it?
Yeah, I had to go through the institution, then find my name and then do it.
Oh,
so,
okay. Okay.
Thanks very much.
No problem. Well, we won't show yours if you don't want us to, so we might remove that and.
No, you can show it. I don't mind it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can show that.
It's scanty, but it's a good example for that one.
IFTE. Maybe start with that one. Okay, so if you go back to the highlights, so on the top on the left there, Jenny. Okay, so what that's telling us, total outputs track. So there are 53 outputs. These records are coming from Neuro. So I mentioned in the chat area that it's really important that you do make sure that your Neuro profile includes all your publications. So that maximizes the chances of picking up the mentions in Altmetric Explorer. So total outputs being tracked to 53. However, the outputs with attention, so those that are actually getting attention, there are 14 of those. And the total mentions across those 14 outputs is 151. So that's where Jenny was showing you that we've got social media mentions and news and blogs, and if there's any policy documents, and there's actually 2 policy or patents there. So if you click there and then go to the 2. Okay, so your article, the National Plan Fee Disaster, that's your article, is it, Ifti?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's been cited by a policy document from the Council on Foreign Relations called Climate Security and Instability in the Bay of Bengal region. And you could actually click on that link, I think, to go to the policy document if you wanted to see whereabouts your publication was mentioned. Yeah. So you'd probably have to do a search in there to find your name. But yeah, it does include those links through to the publications as well. And what was the other policy document, Jenny? So was it National Disasters Public Spending? So that comes from Asian Development Bank. So another great citer of your research as well. So you've got 2 good stories there to add about policies mentioning you.
Great.
Are you right, Jenny?
Yes.
Do you want to take over now?
I'll come back. Thank you so much for that.
No worries.
You explained it so beautifully. So let's see if I can now get back to my slides. Can you see the slides? Or is it still showing?
No, slides good, thanks.
Slides are good. Lovely. Thanks, Debbie, so much. Coughing fit has been finished now. All right. And that's great, Ifti, that we were able to show a live demonstration of how it works. And it is a fabulous tool. It's not what we would call, you know, a traditional metrics tool in the way that SciVal or any of those are, but the information that it's gathering and the story that you can tell from that is really valuable. So there's the information about making sure you get onto our Altmetric Explorer. And there are lots of useful help tips on how to use it, but you can also get in touch with us as well. So how would you use that information? You know, if or anybody else that's going to be looking at this, how would you then tell your story using that information? So a news mention, where's the policy mention? So the policy mention, for example, 30 policy documents from 12 international organisations have cited 32 of my publications. Citing organisations included the CDC from the US, NIHCE from the UK, the New South Wales Department of Health, OECD, Public Health Agency of Sweden, and the World Health Organization. So you're pulling out all of that vital information about who has included this in a policy document. And if it's some of those really high-level organisations, that's a wonderful thing to be able to talk about. The social media mentions, you can be talking about that because that's meaning that other people, possibly beyond academia, are engaging with your research. Of course, it'll probably be a lot of academics as well, but you don't know. And as Debbie was able to point out with the maps, the world maps, it's able to show you from a global perspective how far is your research being, shared. All of that information in Altmetrics Explorer also, as Debbie said, can be downloaded as an Excel, but you can also save each of those pages as a visual document as well. You can be talking about the news mentions. Yeah, there's not one there that talks about the conversation, but you can see, you know, how far has my research been shared? What are the news organisations that are sharing? Is it simply Australia or is it worldwide as well? So they're the sorts of things that you'll be talking about when you're using Altmetric Explorer. Now, another tool that can be used is Google Scholar. But what you have to be aware of with Google Scholar, and I know a lot of people like using Google Scholar because it's very accessible, but just a couple of things to keep in mind. It lacks an indexing policy, and the extent of the coverage included is, and we've put the word cryptic sometimes. Google Scholar also appears to index all output regardless of whether or not it's peer reviewed. There's a general lack of quality in the control of the coverage. There's a lack of advanced search capabilities. Exporting the data is sometimes a bit difficult. Duplicate records and incorrectly attributing citing articles is quite common as well. It doesn't always provide a definition of what is scholarly. The results can vary in quality, and also it's not a stable data set, so some of the things can disappear. With the publish and perish platform that you can see at the bottom of this page, it actually reads the data from Google Scholar, and it can be helpful to identify some things that are a little bit hard to find. So citations per thesis are an example of what you can find in Publish or Perish. It's a freely downloadable tool. However, if you're downloading it onto one of the uni computers, you'll need to just apply to IT to get permission, and a little pop-up box comes up, but they'll give you permission to be able to use it. So it's good to, it's a useful tool to harvest some of that information out of Google Scholar, which isn't always easily available. Now, just going back to the Sustainable Development Goals, the information on the right of this slide is something that I was able to generate for somebody's metrics report, and I got that information from SciVal. But what I wanted to say is being able to mention the Sustainable Development Goals that are mentioned or attached to your articles is really important to the university. As we saw last week, Jennifer Milan made a statement about how well we're doing as far as Sustainable Development Goals. So being able to talk about what Sustainable Development Goals are included in your research is, again, something really important. It's part of the university ranking environment, and it's a useful metric to include because it provides evidence of the impact of your research and the potential and the actual use in broader society or even on a global scale. So be thinking about Sustainable Development Goals that you've got associated with any of your research. And also going back to SciVal, there is a part of SciVal called SciVal Topics, and they are, SciVal themselves have created all of these topics, and they comb across all of the publications and draw them into a variety of topic areas. And again, this is somebody's report that I created. And I've redacted some of the things so that you can't identify them. But what I've been able to do is for a particular SciVal topic area, I've been able to find the average field-weighted citation, but then also find where that person sits in the world as far as publications go. And you can see that this is pretty impressive here. 4th in the world by publication, and they were the only person publishing in Australia in that particular topic area. Again, 28th in the world by publication and 1st in Australia by publication. So they're the sorts of things that can also be drawn out of SciVal. It's something that you'd need us to help you with to find, but it's another area that you can be thinking about using to talk about the impact of your work. So we're almost at the end. Just a couple of things to keep in mind, though. There is no single metric that's going to be used to be able to talk about you fully. So make sure that you've got a variety of metrics that you're drawing together to talk about how successful you are and why you really deserve this promotion. It's important to consult that range of metrics to make sure you get a complete picture of the impact of your research. Citation-based metrics and alternative metrics can be sourced from a range of databases and tools, and there will be variation and overlap between each of those sources, just simply because of the different source publications and time periods. So that's something else that I need to mention is when you're getting some of this information, think about the time period that you're talking about. You know, do you need to narrow it down to the last 5 years, or did you want to talk about all time? Tailor the story that you're presenting as well, and try and convert it all into plain English so that it makes sense and you're getting that story across in a succinct way. And include all of the sources that you got your metrics from, because that's an important thing as well. So don't ever hesitate to contact any of us when you need help, either with this or anything else going forward. We're here to support you in any way that we can through your research journey. We're always the point of contact in the library if you're not quite sure about anything. So please get in contact with us. We're also running some drop-in sessions over the next week and a bit, and there'll be one at Callaghan, there'll be one at New Space, and there'll be one at Arimba as well. The one at Callaghan will be run by my colleagues, Nicole and Jessica. I'll be looking after the one here at New Space, and I'm not sure who's looking after Arimba. It'll probably be Nicole or Jess, but there's no need to book in for those. You'll be able to come and just talk to us if there's something else that you're not quite sure about. Otherwise, email us and we can set up a time as well. So, with 5 minutes to spare, have we got any questions?
There's no questions in the chat. There was a question about how are the records or the records map to the Sustainable Development Goals, and I replied to say that Scopus and SciVal do that via a huge long string of key terms and subject headings.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, they do that matching themselves. That's something that is a SciVal data matching piece of information, but you know, otherwise it's something to keep in mind for yourself as well, matching your publications to Sustainable Development Goals, but it's something that we can draw out of SciVal. Okay, well,
excuse
yes.
me.
Hello, Janet. Hello.
Yeah. I came in a bit late and I saw that you are recording, so
Yes,
will you make it available for us?
Yes, so it will be Joe Dixon. Are you on the line at all?
No, Joe's left, but I put in a link through to the library's YouTube channel, so we will upload the recordings for you, Janet, shortly.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm just going to stop recording.
Sorry, Jenny, can